Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Thank you for being here. Welcome to our panel all about the life cycle of a huge sync. Today we're going to talk about sync licensing, of course, and kind of explore the journey of a sync from its inception to the massive impact that it has. How many people here wish you got more syncs? Okay, I feel like everyone's hand should have been raised there. Obviously, we know syncs can have such a huge impact in an artist's career, visibility, and more revenue. So we have a lovely panelist crew today that are experts in the field. So we're going to share some practical stories and tips on how we can just maximize sync opportunities. So we're going to kick off with introductions. My name is Katrina Balcius. I'm head of sales at Disco. Disco is a platform that the sync industry uses to securely share and manage their music. And we'll just kick it off with everyone doing a quick introduction, your name, your company, what you do, and maybe we'll throw in a wild card. What band are you obsessed with right now?
Oh, okay. I'm Rich Goldman. I'm the president and founder of Riptide Music Group. We're a Los Angeles-based company. We do sync rep. We're also global publishing administrators. We have a indie label. And just a little shout out for Disco. If you're going to submit music, submit it on Disco. It'll get heard a lot quicker.
Hi, I'm Julie Hwang. I'm from K7 Music. We're based in Berlin, and I run the North American sync department. And we are a distributor of over 30 independent labels, as well as having 5 in-house labels, including Strut, DJ Kicks, 7K, and K7.
Wait, no one wants to share their favorite band.
Oh, favorite band. Go ahead.
Baby No Money, right?
Okay, cool.
Stoked to see Sudan Archives, even though she's not on label. But yeah, I'm stoked to see her tomorrow. Yeah.
Radiohead. It's so typical, but Radiohead, Wilco. I'm from the Northwest, so Death Cab, The Shins. That's where I came from. My name's Peter Suk. I'm from Koze Music, which is a pub and sync company based out of LA, and we're about 4 years old. So we do pub admin worldwide, and we specialize in sync as well.
Hi, I'm Simon. I work for AlterK. We are a fully independent company, originally based in Paris, France, but we have a US office. We provide a wide range of services for artists, publishers, and labels. It goes from publishing, of course, distribution. We do have our own sync agency under the name La Crème, where we represent other labels, publishers, and artists. And we have our own music supervision agency called Criminal, also based in Paris. We are also a label for a couple of artists, French 79, Kid Frances Corley, who are French artists. And yeah, that's it. We land around 800 syncs a year, and we are in the business since more than 20 years, so yeah. Oh, and my favorite band at the moment, it's a band called Bar Italia. It's a UK underground band that I'm obsessed with. It has kind of mystery around it, and I loved it. Yeah, that's
awesome. Well, let's kick it off with just talking about the current landscape of sync. You know, a lot of changes have happened over the last few years. How has sync evolved? What are we seeing are the trends, and what are challenges at the moment? This can be for everyone. Whoever wants to kick it off.
I could jump in here. For at least what Riptide does, things haven't changed tremendously in that we're kind of a white glove service to the music supervisors. So we get requests, you know, daily for various projects, whether that be ads, TV shows, promos, trailers, or this type thing. But there's no question that the whole world of distribution of what's going on in the micro distribution area and blankets with, you know, companies like Artlist, Marmoset, and things like that, where I think things are done more online in licensing to do quantity That's not particularly what we're involved with at Riptide currently, but that's also another real avenue to get a lot of music out there and get placements in different areas than maybe different than the major TV shows in the big projects.
Yeah, I think there's a proliferation of content for streaming platforms. Everybody has all their favorite shows across, more platforms than you can count. So I think there's the same type of broadcast licenses, but they have smaller fees and there's just more opportunities. So I think that's good for independent artists. I think there's also more specific usages in media. When you have like an ad, they'll say we want it for 6 weeks. Before I think it was 3 months. So they'll just be very specific about what they want to use it for.
I think the challenge in today's landscape also is the combining of agency and studio, and that content. There's branded content departments in TV film studios and agencies doing work for TV film studios, vice versa. So the challenge and the landscape is that I have a TV film person and I'm an agency person. So how do we figure that out and pitch that? So we're both aligning, and we find ourselves both working on similar projects. But that's the challenge there, because the landscape has really it's become like a combination of both, where it used to be pretty separate. So, yeah.
Just to close one thing, a thing that's changed is the quantity of suppliers has grown exponentially. And that has to do from, online platforms to more sync companies and things like this. So that's a challenge of how do you get the attention and how do you get the music heard, and maybe what's the best way to do that for the focus of whatever you're doing with your artist.
Great segue into my next question. It's like you knew. This is for you, Peter.
Okay.
So, and anyone, but Peter started Koze Music right before the pandemic. Been in the music industry for a while, though, so had relationships. But as Rich was saying, the competitive market in sync is grand. Like, there are thousands and thousands of people pitching music for these large opportunities. So how can indies, and how did you kind of rise above and let people know you're a new agent that has great music and get more of these ops?
Well, I don't know if I've risen above yet, but
I feel like you have. I'll tell people you have.
Well, I think you have to have you have to have a history in sync. So I was director of sync at TuneCore, Believe, and then I was at InGrooves, director of sync. So I was always at digital distribution companies as director of sync. So I took those relationships with supervisors and then decided to start my own company in August of 2019 with a few partners. And we didn't realize there would be, a pandemic that shut down TV and film for 6-9 months right after that. So that allowed us a ramp to basically, put our infrastructure together, get our catalog together. So because I had a director history, with 6 years of that, I had a lot of writers that came with me. And I think the way I established Koze is basically consistent pitching during that time and sort of giving ourselves an identity with the writers that they had from the previous companies. So, it's a slow build. Like I think we're a small size company that's sort of making a name for ourselves now, but it's just consistent pitching over time. We'll see where we land.
Yeah. Any other advice for the, standing out
just
like competitive?
To add to that, and basically, what Peter's saying, and I think probably where he's having the success and from the experience he's had, is really focusing pitches specifically for the project. In other words, that if there's a TV show, you better watch that TV show and be sending appropriate music. So if you're sending music in that doesn't relate to that show at all, the music supervision person or company is going to say, well, they don't know what they're doing, and your chances of being heard the next time you send music in could be a real problem. So you really need to focus in on the music that's appropriate for the project and only send that. And even if you may not get a sync or something like that, you're kind of on the list, because then they say, oh, okay, they know what they're doing, and they'll be able to help me as the music supervisor going forward. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You got to do your homework, basically. Learn about the project that you want to pitch for based on the catalog that you have, based on the music that you have, and learn the way to better approach the music supervisors with, you don't want to send them too much music or just a couple of music. You just want to send the right amount. You just want to have your rights set up pretty clear, like it has to be as one-stop as possible, as fast as possible, and that's a good way to work and to gain their trust when and then being called again and being sent again new briefs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So the topic is huge sync. I don't know why I'm doing quotes. Huge sync, because what does that actually mean? So I'd love for you guys to define for us, what is a huge/successful sync? What are those characteristics? What are we looking for?
Well, a huge sync could mean different things. I mean, it could be monetary huge, which is always great, right? It could be exposure huge for a developing artist, which could also be great, that maybe the money isn't that great, but it helps move an artist to another level. Riptide actually started a record label in recent years, mainly from the sync activity that we've done that has generated activity for the artists that were on there, and a number of them being completely unknown at the time, in terms of, to the streaming community. So it could be really big landing the right sync. I mean, a quick example is we had a song that we put together with a trap producer and a rapper. The Under and Panther was the rapper, and we knew we had a great cut, and we couldn't get arrested on it. I mean, we're a year and a half in, and we're really dumbfounded that we couldn't land anything. And then it became the full trailer for Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw. So we released the record on the day the trailer went out, and it went to 1.5 million streams in about 3 days. So there's the power. And we got a nice fee, but there was real activity in terms of, what could happen from the right exposure and people Shazamming it and liking the song.
Yeah. Great.
So what I define a big sync is landing something, a gift that keeps giving. So, for instance, if you get renewals and if you get derivative uses, if you get extra edits, if you renew for another year on a campaign, I mean, that's pretty sweet. When we have land a big sync, sometimes it doesn't mean millions of streams, but taking an unknown artist to having about 100,000 followers is not a bad thing if you land a campaign for them or land a big ad for them. So, it's a gift that keeps on giving. Anytime, let's say on a campaign you only have US, North America rights, and another territory wants to use the same song or wants to produce their own cut under, the same campaign. So at least we see fees upon fees upon fees, exercising options, and that's, so, revenue, in our case, actually is bigger than the sales, because we're working with artists who have maybe like 1,000 followers tops. So talking about electronic classical composer who had maybe 500 followers, now has about 5,000 followers, and even though he was on an iPhone 14 Pro ad, which just came out in September, the ads don't really have as much impact as trailers, like the big ads. So you think an Apple ad, wow, you landed something, give you a nice fee, all of that, and it's just that, you know, we were expecting to see maybe sales or something, but really it was, he had garnered maybe 4 times as many followers, and the sales just, you know, upticked a bit, but at least he's got exposure, and we can talk about the significance of, you know, the big sync in that sense without the revenue, but yeah. Yeah.
The exposure that you get from a sync is not necessarily proportional also to the fee that you can expect from that sync. That's what we notice over time. Like sometimes some very small sync with the best audience. Like for instance, we had a public program on French TV that we used a lot of music from one of our composers or one of our artists, and there wasn't any fee in the beginning because it's covered by a blanket deal, but the show is followed by millions of people in France, and she had maybe 3 to 4 syncs in the show, and then people started to Shazam, started to look at her name, and suddenly it helped to start her career. So she didn't get any money out of it on the first place, but then she got notoriety, and then she got some streams and some other opportunities. And she was a US artist and signed by a French label, and ultimately she got an audience in France, and then got out also, exploded also in the US. I mean, exploded to our level, but she's Emily Jane White. And yeah, that's also a good way to make the most of a sync, like to target some programs that has a huge audience as much as possible.
Just real quick, 2 extremes of that are, we just landed a sync for a label that we represent for a fairly unknown artist for $200,000. So what that could do for tour support, for everything like that, I mean, it could really help an artist go besides the exposure. And then another extreme is we did a little license in Russia, which I initially refused because the fee was so low. And I relented and went with it. It was for like a $20,000 movie for the trailer for it. It was like $500 or something like that. We don't do that. But I relented. It was the spark that now that artist is approaching 100 million streams. Because the song went to YouTube, got ported over to a bunch of different channels, which created the streaming activity, and this song just keeps going like this. It's kind of nuts. So some real extremes of what could be considered a huge sync.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, you know, getting a sync too is almost like, it's just the cherry on top, right? You shouldn't like bank everything on, you know, money coming in from sync. So I guess with that said, where are these opportunities when we're talking about syncs that have large fees? Where are those living? How do we find them? What are the strategies you guys use to make sure that you're getting that revenue in and helping artists that way?
I think it's definitely promos, trailers, and ads. Just have the bigger fees. That's always sort of how it's been. Promos for TV will run for weeks at a time, so they'll do, you know, they'll say they want a quote where it's 2 to 10 weeks or 2 to 12 weeks, and they usually don't tell you how long they're going to use it, but the fees for that weekly usage is quite good. Same with trailers, they just have bigger budgets because they're, you know, promoting one big film, so they have a bigger budget for that. Ads are the same thing with, you know, like a telephone ad, a big shoe campaign. They just have, they're making one commercial, so they have a huge budget for it, so that's generally where the money's going to be. So how do you get those? That's another question. I think, you know, if you have, you know, an artist or a catalog of music, you have to sort of give it a quality to the music supervisor, kind of define what your music is that's going to catch their attention. And I think if you have an identity to an intro email that says we have this type of music, vintage, something that's really unique, I think that's how you start to get into those briefs. You know, with supervisors we've never worked with, we'll plant all these names, sound-alikes. We'll use vintage catalog and we'll say, hey, just try us out on a brief. And, they'll try us out. And then, if that first pitch goes well, it's a good chance you might continue with them. So you just really have to showcase your artist somehow and show that you have an identity to it. I would not send a playlist that just says, we have all kinds of music and here's 30 songs. That's just too much information for them, so you should just try to be, a needle in a haystack and something that will make them read your first email, I think. One other point I'd make is if you're, do your homework. Like if you're trying to get an ad and get on a brief for a music supervisor or on their pitch list, go listen to, the brand. Like listen to the last 10 Home Depot commercials and see what they used. And, that's not rocket science, but then find the stuff in your catalog and really just craft an email. I think it's worth doing that more than just doing like blanket, 100 emails to all these ad supervisors you met.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of research that needs to go into everything. From a practical level, like how do you guys keep track of all of that and organize, knowing, the Home Depot sound or whatever it is?
That was actually because they have their own theme song, so that was a bad example. But yeah, we use Airtable. We have a really comprehensive list of supervisors and what products they're on, and we actually go through them date by date and then rotate them with new music, music we're trying to feature, music we might have put on a newsletter, but then we focus it in a personal email to them and customize it to their brand or whatever they're working on.
Yeah.
TV shows, we always research upcoming seasons, the production schedule, whether they've gotten renewed, when they released the previous year, and then we time our custom samplers for when they want it. We basically want to put it on a silver platter for them.
Yeah.
For advertising also, I heard about some database where you can basically learn people who are fan of like one brand, what type of music they listen to, and then you can compare to your own catalog and then maybe target and send those type of music to the people who are taking care of the music for those brands, and it works on the other way around. Like you can learn like the people who listen, let's say Taylor Swift or something like this. You can learn what type of brands that they like, and then that can help you as well to target your pitch.
What was that called? Do you remember?
The program who provide these services is a competitor of you, actually.
Oh, don't tell anyone. Don't say it.
And I don't know the name, and I don't know the data that they use, but I know that it's the services that they use. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I think the ads agency likes that.
Yeah. Well, you guys kind of peppered in some examples already of syncs that were really successful, but I'd love for you guys each to share like a notable huge sync moment and a quick snapshot on how you got it and how it evolved.
Who wants to start? Oh, okay.
I'll call on
ahead,
you if you don't.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So a notable sync that we got, I think the largest sync that we ever got, was the current New Balance campaign. We have the song from 2002 and this year as well. So it's the song called "Hey You" by Experience Unlimited, which is a 70s go-go funk band. They only had one hit wonder called "The Butt," which was featured on Spike Lee's School Days soundtrack, and because of that sync, that's how they became a one-hit wonder. So we had acquired the catalog a year prior, and what happened was we thought it was a micro license of some sort. Someone who was not associated with any agency, was a TV film freelancer / junior supervisor, music coordinator, was hired temporarily to find music for the campaign. And it's a good thing that we had a relationship with her, because there was no way we could have connected all these dots until we spoke to her and spoke to the agency itself. And so pretty much just, white glove service to everybody at every level because you don't know who is choosing the music. Usually I see coordinators downloading on behalf of music teams and senior music supervisors and all of that, and they're the ones choosing the music sometimes. So that's a good example there, not knowing that it was being submitted for a huge campaign. And then we found out later that it was for the New Balance campaign for the year, and then they wanted to do it for 2 years because normally they have licenses for 1 year. So it was nice to have the second. And then what's been great was that Japan and Poland, all these different territories want to make their own ads, and so we were able to get money from that. So what was really nice for an underground go-go act that only had local or college airplay, having this big sync for them, and that was constantly played during the World Cup. I even had friends who were like, oh, I'm sick of the song, but at least it's in someone's head, at least it's now recognizable, at least the band has upped their level in recognizability so that you can also use that as a bargaining or negotiating chip when you want to do another sync with them, another, anything that, requires negotiation. But this came from a micro license, which we thought was a micro license, and it turned out to be one of the biggest things that we've ever brought in, probably the biggest revenue coming from one sync, coming from one sync source. So that's been pretty great for the past year and a half. And they have.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask. Are there any?
So they've gotten opportunities and all of that, and they've gotten more festival shows because they were only doing local go-go funk shows in DC, but and they're much older. But if they were younger, they would be touring. They would look into those opportunities. But it's just really nice to have them on the map in the music. Where historically, I mean, it's a band called Experience Unlimited. They're in the Smithsonian. I mean, they should be recognized. I mean, they're just historically relevant, especially East Coast music and all underground music. And so with the added attention this year, and now it's their second most popular song, where it was they had maybe 2,000 followers, and now they have 100,000 followers, which is really nice. So that's that was one example where they weren't getting millions of streams, but yet now they're becoming more recognizable in this way. They'll be up for more opportunities, and they have gotten more opportunities since. So,
were there any ways that you guys identified more areas to have an impact once that sync happened? Or any other collaborators you kind of worked with to?
Well, we are working with 2 alcohol companies, so we'll see how it goes, because at least so it's New Balance it was for New Balance, the campaign, and so they had exclusivity on sports, sports clothing brands and stuff like that. So be aware of that too. If you land a big ad, you're not allowed to license that song out for however long you agree to with that client. But yeah, we're actually negotiating some alcohol brands, which is nice to them. So we'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What about for you, Simon?
I have a good example that maybe that I can tell. You have to be lucky also sometimes, a little bit. And I have one example where we received a big brief from an advertising agencies, and they were looking for something to release the new Samsung product. I don't remember which one, but one that takes great pictures, obviously. And they needed something about taking pictures of shots and stuff like this. And we had the exact music for this. The song was called Big Shots. And it was there were a lot of gimmicks and punchline on the song about shots, and and they wanted the song, and we knew from the beginning that they really wanted this one because it has everything needed for the campaign. And since they sent a brief in the beginning, and usually they show a budget range, and the budget was pretty huge, and since we knew that we were anchored to the campaign, we went to the biggest budget, and we negotiated a 6 figures sync with that, and the artist was, I don't know, maybe 5,000 followers on Spotify, something like this, monthly listeners. So yeah, she was barely new, but yeah, we negotiated a big fee, and that was cool. But yeah, and on the other hand, I have some examples of like very, very small sync again, like the one I said before, that has an even better exposure, and also the fact of multiplying syncs, like very small syncs, that will reach different kind of audience, different communities, different territories as well. For instance, an artist that we have, French 79, he had more than 80 syncs in total, and not a lot of huge fees, like some small TV series, some small brand content, a couple of TV things, but nothing with a huge budget. But ultimately, that helps him to build a good community, a good fan base, and take a big exposure out of it, and also some money, but not big fees. But as long as it helps you to take a step forward in your career, I think it's a success for him, and it's good.
Yeah. And same question to you, like once you guys secure that sync at your company, were there any other strategies you guys did, social outreach, connecting with, other collaborators to let them know about the opportunity?
It was an artist that we don't, we are not publisher or we're not the label, we're just a rep. But still, I know what you should do for this is obviously like the basic, like the common sense is like just for the artist to talk about it, for the label to talk about it, to repost the campaign or to repost the TV shows, to try to engage a community or fan base with the fact of having like some of our music is in that show or that commercial. Give some like behind the scenes, or give some tell your community how much you're excited about it, and try to engage with the brand as well. Maybe you can create a better bond, and you can start with that, and then you can go further maybe at some point. And I know that you can also use some marketing tools from Spotify. I'm not an expert, like Canvas, marquees, and stuff like this that you can you definitely use to push your sync and try to convert the people who watch the TV show or the commercials into some followers for your music.
Rich, how about you?
I'll give a little different example where it's not necessarily about one sync, but a couple guys who came together and brought us a project for mainly promos and trailers of songs. And it wasn't that they've secured one big sync, but they've had an abundance of $10,000 to $30,000 syncs. Yeah. So, I mean, to the extent of, I think they're, approaching $500,000 in sync over, and this is over, 3-4 years. And because of that, their streaming activity is approaching 40 million over about 5 songs right now, and like 800,000 monthly listeners. So, I mean, this was something that sort of developed that they focused in, and through the help, we have actually a separate promo and trailer department of people who are very good at helping to guide some of these songs and put a few little tweaks on them so they really resonate. So it's not that it was one song that hit 100,000 or a couple 100,000, but collectively, they've done extremely well and actually have created a brand called City Wolf, by the way. So these things can happen a number of different ways,
So Julie was talking about with certain campaigns, it's exclusive, right? So you can't pitch that song for other opportunities.
Correct.
Is there any risk in going this route of let's get any sync that comes our way, and then there's a risk of not getting a larger maybe ad campaign because they're like, oh, that music has been used in 100 places. We don't want it. Does that happen?
Bird in hand, most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say, all right, I don't want to let this song out because I think there's a bigger one coming. The bigger one may never come.
Right.
And maybe you take that and build from it. And again, you're only doing product exclusivity. So if it's shoes, that doesn't mean you can't license it to fashion, or you can't, license it to some other, type brand. Although that's a little bit of a consideration too, if a brand comes to you and maybe pays a big fee, and I'd be interested to see what everybody else thinks about this too, that you maybe have product exclusivity, But if you were to then follow that right with another big campaign, you know, there's some etiquette in the business here too. And again, depending upon the artist, if it's a very famous artist, I'd be less concerned about that. If it's an emerging artist and you just got New Balance in a big way, and all of a sudden now they could do, you know, cars or something like that with another really big ad, I'm just curious how you would think about that.
I mean, I'll answer that immediately. Of course, it's relationships with with the supervisors who landed that. And the thing is, they seem pretty open to, just as long as, you know, they just want to hear, hey, we don't want to hear that song on anything that is brand related. The thing is, for a while, I didn't want to pitch that song to any more sports-related sports clients. You know, agencies dealing on behalf of sports teams and all. So I was being overly careful, and then I checked in with the two music supervisors, and they said that's totally fine. You can, yeah, sports is fine. It's just the clothing and the shoes. And I was like, okay, great. So there are some people who are totally cool with that, fine with it. Talking to, you know, the supervisors themselves, but of course that's not, you know, across the board or anything like that. So yeah, it's just depends on the relationship. And also once you do, like, to touch upon finding other opportunities, let's say the sports, the sports opportunities. I mean, of course, you know, the bigger the brand, the more strict the branding guidelines are at the corporation. And so you really got to follow, like, yeah, the tone of the song. Like Apple has their own type of, you know, like, oh, you know, like positive and, you know, driving and punchy or whatever, catchy or whatever. So everyone's got a different, you know, style of music. And the thing is, it's because they come from strict branding guidelines. It's not just the agency that the brand hired made that stuff up or anything. It's just, yeah, the brand is extremely strict. It comes from the brand down. So anyway. Yeah.
Peter, what's your notable sync? Do you want to share with the audience?
So we just landed it, actually. It's a, should I say the number? Is that weird?
People want the number, dude.
It's about $400,000, and it's for a phone campaign that's worldwide. It's for a year.
So drinks on Peter later.
Yeah. No, we haven't. I haven't got that check yet, though.
Oh.
But it's actually pretty interesting. We have the song. So we're a sync and, you know, pub agency, but we actually have this song non-exclusive from a sync artist, so who just writes a lot of music for ads, which, you know, a lot of supervisors don't like that, but you know, some do. And so this song is very syncy. It's on TV, but they haven't released it either. So we got our biggest sync on a non-exclusive sync artist. And I think the back end on that is we're trying to get them to actually pub admin it with us, because it's been on multiple campaigns, multiple TV shows. But their model is just non-exclusive sync with, you know, 2 or 3 companies, and they don't really care about the back end. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think, you know, for that song to continue on and to get, there's going to be back end collections. So I think, you know, pub admin makes sense for that. But that's been the biggest one. Yeah, similar to what Rich was saying, I think if you have a type of music, so we get a lot of, like, we have a lot of trailerized hip hop at Koze, so we do a lot of boxing and UFC promos on TV. And these are unknown artists that get these, but they specialize in that. And in the same vein, we have an artist named Easy McCoy who is just well known in that field, and he gets those $10,000 to $50,000 syncs in volume. He probably gets, you know, a couple hundred of those a year. Nice. So I'd say, yeah, I think that's something to pass on, is the idea that if you have an artist that has a very distinct sound, go to a distinct market, which is promo trailer, you know, be really good at that, and then get a placement, and then you'll get more of those. So Koze's known for that as one of our niches, and I think, you know, that keeps giving back to our company and to that artist. And now we have other hip hop artists that do trailerized hip hop that we also pitch. So I think that's a good way to find something specific, and then, you know, keep going back to that same well. So.
And then outside of the financial gains of a big sync, how do you guys measure the success? We talked about a little bit, you know, streaming numbers and getting more visibility, but if there's anything you'd like to elaborate on there.
Primarily, we look at the streaming, and then does it elevate the artist to hopefully start touring in situations like that, or maybe securing the right management company. All of those things that could really elevate an artist. We tend to work with artists that we feel we could help elevate. I mean, otherwise unless we could move something forward, and in fact, it's sometimes music comes in that we just love, but we don't know, we're not ultra confident we could have success with, that we tend to reluctantly pass and just decide to be a fan of that artist rather than be in business with them. So it's really all about, can we really move an artist forward on some level, whether that's financially, whether it's through their career, whether it's getting them into the mainstream more. Authenticity becomes a very important thing to at least us at Riptide. We tend to deal less with music made just for sync, other than in kind of the trailer promo area, which is specifically a different game. And we do make some music. We produce some music specifically for that. Outside of that, it's really about an artist that's super true to themselves and, in their artistic vision of what they're doing, but also we feel we could get really good syncs for.
Yeah.
Because that's where our power is. And if we don't feel that, there's no reason for us to get involved tying artists up and actually do the investment we have to do to get the music in and out and all of that. We'll just, sadly, sometimes we go, damn, would love to do that, but doesn't make sense, for anybody involved.
Yeah.
With mostly an unrecognizable roster, at least half of our things go towards some type of tour support. So.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Cool. We've got 2 minutes left, so let's see what Q&A we got. Or, we'll get to you.
What are some helpful resources you can recommend for knowing what's going on in the sync world? Either trends or issues that music supervisors are concerned with, or specific music that they're looking for?
What's that one site where you can see all the music that's in the TV shows? What's it called?
TuneFind?
TuneFind.
Yeah.
And there's iSpot
That's
TV.
one.
Yeah. The iSpot also, right?
Podcasts, websites. I know there's Guild of Music Supervisors, but anything else that kind of focuses attention on music supervision?
There are websites that have TV slates. If you have relationships with TV supervisors, you can ask for slates from networks, and they'll give that to you.
What's a slate?
Just the upcoming season of shows that NBC might be producing.
And who is working on it?
A consideration, just unless you're majorly connected and you also have the amount of time to really do this research and get out there, you may want to look at getting representation, because it's a huge job. I have 7 people doing this, just on the sync side, and we don't have enough time to actually do it all. So it's something you may want to explore, what's the right fit for what you're doing, and get some representation who could get you in. Yeah, you've got to give something up for that, but you may get much more activity and success than you may get otherwise. So just something to really consider.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Nice on the Sonics. I am an audio engineer, a senior audio engineer at Platinum Sound Studios under Jerry Wonder here. So I've been an audio engineer for 18 years, and I work with a lot of big artists. Like I'm French Montana's engineer. I work with Brandy for 3 years. A couple big artists. They work on a lot of records, and usually when they're working on a campaign, they make like a bulk of records, and only a few records go. But trying to find ways to make use of records that are unused. I'm very close to the local independent community, so like I work with a lot of independent artists. I'm not an artist or into a label or anything marketing. I'm really just here just to learn more information about what happens to these records after, you know, and how to use these records after we create them. But after being at one of the panels yesterday, I was thinking, being that I have so many of these records and I have so many relationships with artists, like trying to think of like the best way to be able to pull together records and be able to pitch them to individuals who do representation. Wanted to know, do you guys only work with like exclusive clients or clients that only work with you exclusively, or do you have times where you're just looking for records and you're down to get them from wherever once the business is correct?
At Riptide, we only deal with exclusive representation, with very few exceptions. We have one of the biggest artists in the world that's non-exclusive, but that's the exception. So
same for us. You have to, otherwise you might create confusion into, because ultimately all of us will pitch to the same clients, because we have all, like, it's a small world though, there are a lot of people out there, but ultimately we will pitch to the same people. So if the same agent or the same labels pitch the same music to those people, it's going to create confusion and they're going to blacklist the music, us, and it's good for anybody, it's bad for everybody. As for the stuff that is unreleased, we take some from time to time, and we can work on it, but what Rich said earlier, it's important to have stuff that is authentic nowadays, that has a story, because ultimately that's what the music supervisors are going to be interested in, and I think it's going to be more and more like this in the future, especially with AI and music libraries. For the lowest quality sync, everything will music will be easily replaceable. So what will make the difference is the authenticity of the music, and I think at that point it's going to be important to have a real artist and with a real story. So yeah, maybe you want to do something with it, like release it, make a collaboration with another artist and put it out, and then there is a real story. But before that, it's going to be complicated. It's not impossible, but complicated.
Any more questions?
Yeah, hi, I'm Radek. I always believed that sync is a fascinating world, and now after listening to you guys, it's even more fascinating. But what really interests me as an entrepreneur, because I'm a founder of a music distribution and artist label service company in Czech Republic, is how do you guys as a company forecast your sales, set up your goals, and take control of cash management, because this is uncertain business, is it? And when your company employs like 7, 10, 20 people, you don't close a 100K business every month or every quarter. How do you get on with this?
Well, we base projections based upon what we've previously done. So, and then, I mean, we had to really figure things based upon the pandemic. You know, that kind of caused the situation because production actually stopped. So we actually did projections for 23 somewhat based on 2019 numbers, and the idea that things were really back, you know, and then also to look at the areas where we felt we were possibly weak and focus on those to really bolster that up. And then it's also analyzing the music that you have. You know, do we really have the music that is really moving for what's going forward now? And that's, so we have to be very active within the community. You know, there's some music, legacy music that we have that keeps going. However, you know, new music's coming all the time, and, you know, new ways of presenting things. So we will really analyze that with somewhat of a conservative outlook for the coming year. At the same time, we want to push the whole team to achieve another level without but within a range of where they feel they could be successful, not at a point where they would feel that they would fail from hitting a goal. So it's really based upon past history. And
well, we are out of time, but we will all hang out outside of this room if anyone has any other questions for us. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Have a beautiful rest of your indie week.